Alrighty, we'll get going here. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday night. Before we get going, if you can go in and change your name so we make sure we give you credit for tonight. If you don't know how, put your mouse over your picture. You'll see three little dots and you'll be able to change your name. I see a DZ. I'm not sure who that is. So if you can go in and change your name, make sure we can get you credit for tonight. And there's an iPad 5 on here as well. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. Tonight we have Jeff Jordan, who's no stranger to Hockey Eastern Ontario, as a former U18, AAA and Junior A coach, as well as a coach in our POE at the Gold Cup, and Team Ontario head coach in 2019. Back to help us out and give us some tricks and tips on technology. Jeff Jordan, all yours.
Hey, thanks very much, Jeff and Brian. Appreciate the opportunity. I'll just start sharing my screen here and load up the presentation, and off we go. Is that good for everybody?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, thanks again. So there's my contact info, cell phone included as well. So I know it's not often shared personal information, but definitely happy to help out my home district. So anytime something comes up, or if you have a question following the presentation, feel free to reach out and be happy to spend some time trying to assist you guys. So, in this presentation, the goal is just showing little ways how we can utilize technology for player and team development. I'll go over, where I came from as a coach, where I am now, what I've seen in my time over the past 10 years as it relates to technology and how it's been utilized. Video is going to be a big portion of it, obviously. Different hardware and softwares you can utilize to take advantage of that, different services, a bunch of different tips and tricks, and a bunch of ways you can save a lot of money by using just really inexpensive ways to capture video. And then some good communication information stuff, utilizing Dropbox and social media and stuff like that. And then we'll go through some questions afterwards. So Jeff alluded to, from HEO, born and raised as a coach. Had a lot of fun working my way through different levels there. Started off as an assistant coach for the Ottawa Sting major midget team, 2008. I was coach of the Ottawa Sens AAA team, the major midget team for several years, where I think it was the first time I got to meet Brian. Was with the team HEO, where I worked with both Brian and Jeff. So that was a lot of fun that year with Sylvain Favreau. Coached a couple AAA teams, Junior A teams. And then after Team Ontario in 2019, I got an opportunity to be a video coach in the professional leagues, and took that as a great learning opportunity. Been having a lot of fun doing over the last couple of years in the St. Louis Blues organization. So over my time, there's been a lot of different things that I've seen. Personally, when I was playing, I never once saw a video myself. So I didn't really benefit from that growing up. But earlier on, especially with the AA teams, you'd go to tournaments, you get CDs after the game, and that was kind of my first opportunity to start using video with the teams. Video review wasn't really common early on in my coaching experience up until perhaps my third or fourth year of AAA. And again, that was just utilizing, a CD from a tournament. So it wasn't very consistent throughout the course of the season. Certainly there's no online video like there is now. HEO's done a great job with their AAA leagues and Junior A leagues with Hockey TV and Instat and getting video right then and there. So that's been amazing. Practice planning was always just, drawing it on a piece of paper. I still have some old napkins I used from tournaments and stuff, drawing up practices. But now with, drill draw softwares and stuff like that, it's been a lot more easy. Communication is obviously a big one as well. The way you can share information with one another, be it your coaching staff or your players, how you can access that information, some video clips, rosters, whatever it is through social media and Twitter. Teams post lineups usually at different levels. At YouTube, you can steal a bunch of clips if you can't have access to video in other ways. And then using Dropbox for things like sharing video, uploading clips, meetings with each other, and sharing those with the players as well. PowerPoint is a big thing for scheduling purposes, sending out daily schedules for guys, rosters. And then other areas, I was just chatting with a few of our players in Springfield this week just to get their insights in the matter. And they both hit on, training and treatment has really taken off over their careers. It's a lot more sports specific now. Our strength and conditioning coach uses body imaging scanners, so we can kind of tailor his approach to each individual uniquely. The recovery time has certainly increased. There's been a lot of tech involved with tracking that data. Several players, if not half the players in our team, utilize this Whoop, which is kind of like a Fitbit or Apple Watch. It tracks your energy output, your sleep recovery, nutrition. It tells you when you're recovered. So it's pretty neat. These guys have access to know where they're at as it relates to recovery and their preparedness. Spoke with our equipment manager. Obviously everything's been lighter. Everything's been lighter over the years. It's better protection. Skate blades are now just pop in and pop out for a lot of the guys. He doesn't really have to take a boot off and run them back. Analytics is taken off certainly over the last several years. The ease of access to it, how efficient it's become, and how easy it is to share. I'll go over how we record certain things and review it with our team. And then certainly over the last couple of years in COVID, the online meetings, in particular Zoom, has really taken off. But there's other platforms like Skype or Google Hangouts where you can utilize, and I've done in the past as well. And then certainly the time the coaches put in. When I started coaching, I don't want to say we didn't put a lot of time in, but it certainly doesn't seem like it's as much as we put in now. So just a couple trends I've noticed over the years. Big things for tech and utilizing tech is just recommended software that I use on a daily basis that I'd love to recommend for you guys to use. There's a few in particular that are very inexpensive. There's a few that I'll show you that we use and whatnot that are quite expensive and certainly only adaptable for professional budgets, but the same features can be utilized in less expensive softwares, in particular Microsoft PowerPoint. This presentation's on PowerPoint. I do a lot of other things on PowerPoint, albeit scheduling, putting clips together for guys and sending clips out. So PowerPoint's a big one. Drill Draw is something that we use as a staff every day, and we have for the last several years in Springfield and in San Antonio. So we can go back and look at any practice plan we want. We can easily pull up drills, and we're constantly putting new drills in there. So our database has become pretty big over the last couple of years. Video editing softwares is a big thing early on in my coaching career. Was just get a CD and you put it in your DVD player and you're hitting play and pause, and that's pretty much what we did with the team. It was just fast forward and pause. But now we can actually edit the clips out very easily and efficiently. The big notable softwares that I've used in the past are Stiva. I actually used to work there as an intern back in 2010, so I got quite familiar with it, and I use it with several of my teams after that. Exos is one that a lot of the professional teams use, but there's also Pucks. Adobe has a video editor, and then there's a bunch of free ones like iMovie, which is an Apple-based software. On most Windows 10-based softwares now, there's a free Windows video editor. So you don't necessarily have to have a Steve or an Exos to edit and clip out your items from your games. You can actually do it for free if you put the time in for it. And same thing with your smartphones and tablets. You can screen capture now on your phone and create a standalone clip and upload it to PowerPoint and send it off as an item to review with your team if you want. Dropbox is also very important for our day-to-day operations here, as it's been for several of my teams in the past. I'll create team folders, individual folders, constantly putting things in different guys' folders, in the team folder, telling them if we don't have time for video review meetings. I'll mention that, we put something in our team folder, take a look at it before our next game or practice. This will be a little bit more efficient. But easily video is the most important teaching tool your coach can utilize for developmental purposes. Excellent visual feedback, reinforces and corrects play. And from what I've seen, it hasn't been used as much as I think it should be. Now, I'm, of course, biased being a video coach and having utilized it. But for example, in 2019 at the Canada Winter Games, on our first meetings when we got out to Red Deer, I asked the guys how many of them have done video review before. And I think out of the 20 players, maybe 4 or 5 actually raised their hands. So in minor hockey, I don't think it's utilized as much, but it definitely could be. And I'll give you guys some tips and tricks of how you can utilize it with your teams at different levels pretty efficiently. So like I mentioned, it's a part of our daily meetings. We'll go into the rink tomorrow morning, and the first thing we'll do at 8 a.m. is we'll have a meeting as a staff. We'll go over clips from our last couple games, clips perhaps of some pre-scouts that we want to review later on in the week. We'll create little meeting folders, and then we'll kind of edit it down so it's nice and succinct and efficient, so they're not going too long in these meetings. When we meet with the team tomorrow morning, it'll be about 5 to 15 minutes. It's certainly just a couple clips from our last game, which was last night in Laval. Perhaps a clip from this past week as well. We had 2 other games. And we'll kind of boil it down to 10, 15 clips perhaps for a meeting. And then we're ready to go for our 9 o'clock meeting with the players. A lot of things we'll do as well is we'll organize our clips throughout the week. So knowing we do these meetings on a daily basis, we also kind of set our plans for practice throughout the week. So tying your clips in with practice is a valuable idea. So if it's something like we were struggling on our breakouts or D-zone exits, whatever it is, we'll show some clips on those items. And then that practice tomorrow might follow up with some coming out of D-zone exits and some breakouts. So it's important to tie everything in, for what you're doing at that time. Individually, our coaches sit down with the players every single week at different times, and it's always showing some mistakes and then reinforcing with things that they did well in some similar capacity. It's a great opportunity to compare good versus bad, set some goals for the players. So we'll get some directives down from our NHL parent club, the Blues, and player A needs to work on this, and this. And then our assistant coaches will go through and get some clips to help with those areas and hopefully prepare them for some call-ups. With video, it's always important you finish on some positives. You never really want to leave your team, your players, leave it in a bad state of mind. So as perhaps some clips earlier in the meeting might not be the best, if you can find some good things to finish on, even if it's something simple like finishing checks or blocking shots, it's always important, I think, to finish on some positives. On a game day, our usual routine is in the morning, we'll do a special teams meeting. So our penalty kill and our power play coaches, we'll do some quick review from our last game and then show a few clips for our upcoming game. And then at 5:30 before our game at 7, our head coach will go through and do his 5-on-5 meeting. And all of those meetings are approximately 5 to 10 minutes apiece. So very succinct, direct and to the point. And these guys do such a good job at clearly communicating their ideas as well. So it's a well-oiled machine we got, but certainly little things that I wasn't necessarily aware of before you get to these levels. So hopefully I can impart some of these things to you guys to utilize with your teams. So my job in a game, if I'm doing pre-scouts, if I'm doing our in-game stuff, my markings on the left side here is pretty much all the things that I index. So it's not a whole heck of a lot. I certainly know other video guys that do a lot more. But the way we kind of break it down is I think is pretty efficient. So for example, breakouts and coming out of D-zone. So a breakout for us is if it's an active breakout. In other words, if there's constant motion, they dump it in, we pick it up, we wheel out, it is a breakout. Everything else is coming out of D-zone. So if the play gets stalled, we're in defensive zone coverage, we get the puck out, it's coming out of defensive zone. And then what we'll do after the game is each one of our coaches kind of has their own area where they'll go in, they'll pick out some of the pieces that they review, pick out their favorite clips to review, and then we'll put a meeting together the next morning and repeat it day after day. But if you don't have video coach, which a lot of people don't, in minor hockey, certainly I didn't. I spent a lot of time doing it myself. Utilizing your game cards is a really valuable tool that really easy to do at the time and will save you a lot of time later on. And it can be something as simple as something that stands out to you in the game. Write down the time of the clock on your game card and a little note to reference it later on, and you can quickly go back, find it, create a little clip out of it, and put it into a meeting for the next day. And as I mentioned, the use of all these online video things like Hockey TV, Instat, now it makes it like super efficient to gather clips and prepare that stuff. So you're not, spending all your nights or mornings going through games and stuff like that. So I'll talk more in depth about Instat later on. They've really done a phenomenal job over the last couple of years. Biggest thing is divide and conquer. As a coach early on in my career, I wanted to do everything myself. I was going through every game. I was putting through all the clips together. But seeing the way these guys work, really fortunate to work with, a first-class coaching staff led by Drew Bannister. He's broken it down in different areas. So it's divide and conquer. After a game, Drew will go over all of our 5-on-5 stuff. Daniel Kachuk, who presented on here a couple weeks ago, he spends a lot of time going over his power plays. He'll go over our offensive entries, our offensive zone play. And then within that, he'll see individual things that he'll put in individual folders. later on to go over with certain guys. Our defensive coach, Stu Bickle, has been a lot of fun to work with as well. He's in charge of our penalty kill on our back end. So he'll go over clips of the defensive zone coverage, coming into D zone, and obviously individual defensive stuff. I'm typically responsible for going over all the pre-scouts of our opponents coming up, face-offs that we've either ran or our pre-scouts show the other teams are running. Our goalie coach, Dan Stewart, does a great job going over goalie handles, which are breakouts and communication between D and goalies. He does all of our pre-scouts for the goalies coming up and writes quite detailed reports on game days for the guys. And then he, after every single game, goes over shots against and goalie handles with each goalie that plays. So dividing and conquering and utilizing your staff is certainly of significance. Time management is a huge thing. Like I mentioned before, I would often, after a game, go home and do everything myself and spend a lot of time doing it, and just didn't really utilize my assistant coaches probably as I should have. But typically in game review, if you're going to go and break down your game yourself, it's approximately an hour and a half. And then, when you meet with your staff, if you divide things up with your guys for them to find different clips, we typically meet tomorrow morning. We'll go for about 15 or 30 minutes. We'll review all the clips that each guy has kind of highlighted, and then we'll trim it down to prepare a 5 or 10 minute meeting. And as you'll see, and the image, this was a meeting from December. I just took a screenshot of. There's 11 items in it. The total video time is 1:33. With stopping and starting and coaching points, it goes for about 5 or 10 minutes. Within our software we use, which I'll talk about shortly, all of our coaches are able to put comments in here so we can really highlight the few clips in particular that show what we want to focus on for that particular meeting. So the video software, as I talked about, I've used Stiba Hockey Pro is one I used for several years. I must use it for 10 years. It's pretty user-friendly. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty reliable as well. And it's also cost efficient. I want to say an annual license for Stiba is around $500, give or take perhaps, which might seem like a lot upfront. But I always was able to put it in my team's budget at the beginning of the year. And I always broke it down. And, if we had 17 players, 500 divided by 17, and there's your cost per player. And then if we do a meeting a week for the course of the season, each player is probably paying, $1 a meeting or something like that to run that software. In the professional leagues, we use Catapult, also known as Exos. When I first started using it, a little bit of a learning curve, slightly different operating software, but also very similar in a lot of respects in terms of tagging and review and stuff like that. It's pretty cost inefficient, I would say. It's quite expensive. So not many guys out there might have access to use it, but certainly as you move up, and if you have an interest in pursuing video in any capacity or coaching at another level higher up, Exos is certainly one to become familiar with. There's a lot of tutorial videos you can watch on YouTube and on the Catapult website if you want to become more familiar with it. But that's pretty common, the higher levels you go up to. And then there's other ones that are very inexpensive, like Hockey TV has done a great job of putting a lot of games on live. You can create little clips out of them if you want, send little playlists and packages. Heck, you can create a whole video meeting if you want and just log into your account and review that with your team. Instat, I think, has done an exceptional job over the last several years of really making it easy to access video and they have an analytics package in there as well. After each game, they'll send you match reports and they'll send you players reports as well. But as you can see here, it's just so much data. Not all of it is utilized, but certainly a lot of stuff that you can look at if you're interested as a player or as a coach. They'll show your time on ice, your tendencies, if you wanted to watch all of your different clips, albeit your hits, your face-offs, all the breakouts you're involved with. And you can then choose whether or not it's for your last game, your last 5, 10, 15 games, whatever it is. So Instat's become very popular at many levels. I know at U18, we were using it the last couple of years as an HEO, certainly at Junior A. Major Junior uses it, the professional leagues use it. So that's one that's been really taken off, and I've had a lot of fun using, and certainly very efficient as well. So after each game in Instat, you'll get an email the next morning. It looks something like this, which is your match report. So as a coach, you can go in and look at it as a PDF, all your players' time on ice, analytics as it relates to their performance. And then it follows up with all the clips. So you can then correspond that data with finding some visual reinforcement. It's a great for scouting opportunity as well. If you're in a pinch for time and you need to get some clips for an upcoming team that you're playing, you can quite easily go in there and pull up their special teams from the last couple of games. You can look at the way they've been scored against on special teams or the way they score. And then from a player perspective, it offers a lot of player comparables as well at similar levels. So if I was to search up Jeff Jordan, it'll show on my player profile page players with similar outputs, perhaps with similar goals, similar saves, whatever it might be. And so it can kind of show you what style of play that you're comparable to. Individually, players will get individual match reports after each game. So like this year with Springfield, I incorporated this with a lot of our guys, and they love it. The next morning, they'll get these match reports showing them all their time on ice, their shots, goals, whatever they want to see, their performance. And same thing with goalies, like very detailed. It shows some tendencies about, perhaps where they're getting beat, different save percentages in different areas, where a lot of shots are coming from on the ice, perhaps where pucks are beating them from on the ice. So as you can see, like Instat is really an in-depth online tool. And as far as I know, it's also very cost effective. And a lot of teams like the HCO League at AAA or the Junior A League will have league-wide contracts. So you'll actually get it as a part of your team budget anyways. So that's one, if you're not too familiar with, certainly want to take a look at. And it's not just AAA, they have a lot of information at many different levels. And oftentimes tournaments, like the Toronto tournaments and stuff you'll go to with your minor teams, a lot of those games are uploaded to Instat. And so if you wanted to go in and take a look at, I just loaded up, an Ottawa Sting team that I used to coach way back in the day. They had a game from earlier in the season, and I was able to look at some AA stuff as well, see some time on ice. And like I mentioned, when I first started coaching with that Ottawa Sting team, like their video was an afterthought. It wasn't even a thought in anyone's mind. Players had never done it. The coaches had never done it. So now to have access for something like this, maybe this is a tool that helps you move from a AA level to a AAA, or from a AA to a junior level. And the same thing from a coaching perspective. Maybe it helps give you that additional insights to help you progress as a coach as well. So it's quite expansive, the different levels that Instat covers. But there's a lot of cheap and ineffective ways you can capture the video. If you don't have access to DVDs or whatever it is, when I first started coaching AAA, I had an iPad that I had a parent hold in the stands. And, they would come down to me at the second period flood, and I could look at it if I wanted to. And then after I went home, that was my chance to review it. And if you wanted to present stuff to your team, it's also pretty easy to do from that iPad or your iPhone. I utilize this Apple HDMI adapter. I want to say it's about $30, $40, depending on, where you go to buy it. But basically, you plug that in the bottom of your phone, the bottom of your iPad, put an HDMI into your TV or projector, and now you're putting all your images up there. So you don't necessarily have to have a Stiva or an Instat or anything like that to pull the video for your guys. If you didn't have a parent, you can easily set up a tripod. And I do this at practice with our teams. We've been starting to film practices, and I'll talk about that shortly. But I'll go up and I'll put my phone up in the stands. I'll capture practice. I'll then grab the video off of it and put it in my software and just clip it out a little bit. And very inexpensive way. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have an iPad. You can use your phone. A lot of the phones now have a lot of storage. The camera quality on them is amazing. So you're going to capture in high definition. So it's a very inexpensive way of capturing video and reviewing video with your team. What's new in iOS and I think on Samsung Androids as well is now you can screen record your phones. So if you had the ability to log into a Hockey TV account on your phone, and you wanted to screen capture, you swipe up, you hit your record button and hit play on your video. And now you can create a standalone clip from that big video file that you can then send to players, send to your coaching staff, use in a video meeting, put in a PowerPoint. You can voice over that stuff as well. So that's another area that's really taken off, is utilizing our smartphone capability and tablets to capture video. What we'll use with our team in Springfield is we'll use this Blackmagic recorder. So basically at a rink, and we use a similar one in the OHL as well. You'll get your video feed from the broadcast feed. It'll go into this converter device, and then that'll go into your software. And that's how I'm able to capture video live and edit and break it down. It's quite expensive, this H.264 device, but you know what? If you buy it retail, it's gonna be new. If you look around, on eBay or Amazon, you can find these for probably $100. So it's not too bad. The Hauppauge HD PVR2, I think I first started using this in junior A several years ago. Again, a great inexpensive way, very similar to the 264. You plug your feed in. Here, you'll plug your feed out, goes into your computer. But this is also the way that I used to steal video from NHL broadcasts. Is I would take my Rogers box HDMI, I'd plug it from the Rogers box into here, take the other side out, put it in my into my Steva, and now I'm actually screen grabbing live television as it goes. I don't know the legality of that, but certainly it worked out well when I was going over some NHL clips with my teams back in the day, and it's something you can utilize as well. But YouTube's been a great asset for me. We still use it to this day to pull NHL clips off of. I used it several years ago. NHL.com or Sportsnet, they'll post NHL game highlight feeds, and each video is like 10 minutes long. So they show a lot of highlights from games. So if you're watching a game at home, you see something you like, you can just write down the time of the game it happened. You can go on to YouTube and pull it up right away. And on YouTube, you can actually clip it out now, which is a new feature. You can create a standalone clip from, this is a game last night, Oilers and Flames, if you wanted to clip out a goal or a play or whatever it is. And then you can just email it to yourself in your Google account. What you can do if you want to grab the whole game highlight or any other videos off YouTube is just take the URL at the top of the screen. I use this website, this online video converter website. I'll paste the link within it, and then I can download it. So I'll now download that YouTube video. I'll upload it into my Exos or Steva software. And then I'll start editing and creating little standalone clips if I want. Or I can just screen capture or utilize something like the VLC player. The VLC player is a media player. It's free to download. It plays every file format you can think of. So if it's an H.264, if you're pulling video off of your iPad, it'll come out in MOV formats. A lot of high definition formats now are MKV that struggle to play with things like Windows Media Player or other media players. But the cool thing with VLC as well is you can also, much like YouTube, is you can create clips within it. So if I downloaded the game highlights from YouTube, upload it to VLC, I can create a clip, put it into a PowerPoint, or I could send that clip to a player individually, and off you go. So that's one media player. Definitely recommend if you don't have one or if you're struggling with media players, take a look for VLC. But I talked about screen capturing as well. So if you're streaming a game, be it in Hockey TV or NHL.com or whatever it is, you can capture video now for free as well. I want to say it's on most Windows 10 and up. If you just hold down the Windows and hit G button, this little thing will pop up called Capture. You can record your screen. You can also record meetings. I did a tournament one time with a AAA team in Toronto, and I was able to find some video for our team we were playing on the Friday night. I know we wouldn't have time to do a video meeting before that game. So that afternoon, I just screen captured video. I spoke over it, and then I put that little clip in Dropbox. I sent it to the team. I texted it out saying, watch this while you're on the road to Toronto. And they got there and they had the pre-scout already done with. So that was kind of cool. So when you capture things, utilizing this Windows capturing, it pretty easily goes into your videos folder. So if you just click on my computer, go into your videos, there's a captures folder that's created, and here's all the captures that you've created. So it's free to use, very inefficient and easy. So now you capture all your videos in minor hockey and AA or wherever it might be. When I was coaching, now it's, well, where am I going to show the video? So if you're at, Kilray Arena or Jim Durrell or the KRC, wherever it is, you need somewhere to show it. And oftentimes in those dressing rooms, there's obviously no TVs, or the lights don't turn off or whatever it is. But you go to the City Ottawa website, you can rent a meeting room for $20 for an hour. So, we had games several years ago in the early stages of the HEO AAA League where we'd play games at Leitrim, or we'd play games at Canada Rec Center, and I'd want to do video before. I would go on a City of Ottawa website. I'd reserve the meeting room. I'd then show up a bit early and set it up for the guys. They'd come in at their normal time. We'd do a 10-minute meeting, and off they go for pregame warm-ups. So we've captured the video. Now it's just finding a place where we can show it to our team. And then you got to ask yourself, well, what do you need to run those meetings? So oftentimes in those City of Ottawa buildings, some of them will have visual aids, but those are things to ask, certainly when you're reserving it. You know, they'll have tables and chairs usually for you, but will they have visual aids? Will they have TVs or projectors to utilize? You know, if they don't, perhaps you might have to bring a projector, bring extension cords, HDMI cables, and that sort of thing to help you run your presentation. Considerations are certainly time to set it up, time to take it down after, which is about 10 or 15 minutes perhaps. And the City of Ottawa facilities are great. They always let you in early, and they're always really kind to work with you. So you can get there early, set it up the way you want, like a classroom. That way your guys show up and they're in and out in 10 minutes. And that's a pretty efficient video meeting. Another area we utilize on a daily basis here, and one that I've transitioned away from, handwritten things, is utilizing Drill Draw for practice planning and drill storage. This is a great company. It's based out of Montreal. He's a great owner. He'll respond to any issues you have right away. I think in the 3 or 4 years utilizing the software, we may have had an issue once where there was a server down, and it actually ended up being on our end. So he's a great guy. But as a staff, again, dividing and conquering, you're all able to put drills in if you got a drill you really like, and create this database. And then when you're planning your practices, you're now going into your database, and as a staff, you want to do drill Columbus breakouts like we had on this particular day, or Detroit drive. And now we're putting our thing together. The guys get to the room. It's up on the board for them already, so they can quickly take a look at what we're doing. And then, when we're doing our video meetings, we'll spend a couple minutes where Chucker will go over our first couple drills of practice. So that way we get on the ice. We're off and running right away. Very limited time spent at the whiteboard drawing. And one thing we're looking at for next year, I mentioned we started recording practices. The beginning of next season, because we have such a large drill database, now I'm trying to get those drills in video so that when the guys get into our dressing room on the screen, I'm just going to put these videos up for our practice plan. So they'll see the drills we're doing. I'll create a little clip. So for 5 seconds, it'll play out a drill draw image, and then it'll go into the video of us actually doing that drill. So this drill is coming out of D-zone breakouts. So now early in the season, guys will be familiar with the drills. They'll get out there. No time spent at the whiteboard drawing. No time hiding in the back of the line. Off and running you go. Here's another one I took from the opposite end of it. Sometimes the drills, run a little differently, so you want to see the full length of it. This is a great drill we stole from St. Louis when we were up in camp, the Rhino 1v1 surf. And it's a great angling drill, a transition drill. But for a lot of new guys, it's a lot of moving parts. They don't know how to do it right away. So, utilizing our video now and combining with Drill Draw, they get to the room, they can become familiar with it. And it's just making everything a lot more organized, a lot more prepared for that day, so you can really hit your stride. Dropbox. This is a huge thing that I've utilized for years. I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. It's very cheap, but it's just a phenomenal way of sharing information with one another, albeit your coaches as well as the players, and even your parent group if you have information to share with them. It's about $10 a month, I would say, for a terabyte of storage, but there is a free version, which is around 1 gigabyte, perhaps 500 megabytes. So still a lot of space to use for free to share information. I took a screenshot here of the last several years just to show how we've utilized it. Every team I've been with, the players have had links, URL links I create for these. They're able to go in and look at our video meetings. Every video meeting I've done with our teams, I would then upload after the fact to Dropbox. So if a player wasn't familiar, didn't remember everything we went over in that meeting, I would upload it. They can then go home and watch it on their own time. I mentioned I did that one video meeting on the fly for guys going to tournaments. As a staff, we utilize it like crazy, and all of our coaches have individual folders where we store it. You can access this on your smart device, your phones and tablets. So Dropbox is one thing I also really recommend. It's very cheap and easy to use, and great way of storing information and sharing with one another. Like in Team Ontario, I mentioned video review on the fly in 2019. You have very limited time in a short-term competition, so we did a bunch of Zoom meetings ahead of time leading up to the games where we started going over different areas of the team, defensive play, offensive play. So I did much like we're doing now with the Zoom meeting. It was screen captured, it was uploaded. Those meetings were actually about an hour, so a lot longer than they should have been. But it just gave the guys an opportunity to review it later on, to fast forward through it and to go over certain things. So when we got to our mini camp in Toronto that year, they're a little bit more familiar. We didn't have to spend as much time going over, our tech packs and stuff like that. But again, just highlighting the use of Dropbox and how efficient you can be sharing stuff with guys and giving those individuals the opportunity to see it on their own time, which I think is an underrated thing. I think a lot of coaches, and I did in the past, you go over your meeting and you think you did such a great job that everyone, remembers everything, but obviously not everybody does. So giving them the opportunity to review it on their own time, certainly a valuable thing to provide your guys with. PowerPoint, again, if we don't have video softwares like Steve or Exos or Drill Draw, whatever it is, PowerPoint, if you can only get one thing, I would say PowerPoint would be the thing to do. You can insert video into it. You can draw on it. You can create tech packs. So I'll show you another screenshot on the next slide. You can create your schedules, your game day rosters. Everything we do nowadays, or at least I do, seems to be through PowerPoint. But creating the videos and the video packages within it, I think is a valuable thing to have. To do that in PowerPoint, it's pretty easy to put a video into a slide. Just go to insert at the top of the screen, all the way over to your right, video, and off you go. Now your video is in your PowerPoint. This video, for example, or this presentation, I can create as its own video. All I have to do is go to File, Save as MP4, and now this whole presentation is going to be a video file that's going to go for 5 seconds a slide, and off you go. So if it's one thing you can only get for video purposes or for any scheduling organizational purposes, PowerPoint, the number one recommendation. As I alluded to, creating a tech package. This whole tech pack for Team Ontario in 2019 was created in PowerPoint. I would insert an image of a rink. I would then utilize the drawing tools at the top of the screen, and I just draw, our diagrams up for the guys. So I can't value PowerPoint enough or express my love of it a whole lot, but it is great. Every week, what we do with our guys is we give them weekly schedules. Again, utilized through PowerPoint. I always text this out to them on our off day, which was today. So I sent them our schedule for the upcoming week. This is something we put in our room when the guys get in tomorrow as well, just in case they didn't get it for whatever reason on their phone. Quite easily breaking down your day. And same thing for games. You guys get to the rink, having your roster right as you walk in the door, I think is a valuable thing. Areas like we do, we put our keys to the game, things we want to focus on for that game that, also correspond with the video meetings for that day or that week. We put the officials in there, just so the guys have every little bit of information possible when they get there and they're prepared, ready to go. Excel is another great one to use. I talked about PowerPoint, creating schedules for our players and stuff. Internally as a staff, this is our master schedule from January. Lets everyone know when and where we're supposed to be, when we're traveling for places, when we have post-game meals, when our flights are and stuff like that. I want to say with PowerPoint, Excel, and Microsoft Word, I think you can buy the whole Office thing as a package deal. I don't think it's too expensive for an annual license. And similar to Stiva, as I mentioned earlier, you can get that put into your team budgets. It's quite simply broken down by player, by day, et cetera, so it gets down to a really nominal figure, and no one will have an issue with paying for good organization. And it's not a whole lot of money at the end of the day that you're going to be paying. And then I'll just wrap it up with a couple things here. Time management, I talked about early on in my coaching career. I spent a lot of time trying to do too much. And early on, I didn't know what I didn't know. I just thought I was doing a good job, only to realize later on, utilizing your staff and really dividing and conquering is a really important thing. Planning is a big thing. So even if you know the schedule like the back of your hand, having it out there for you guys to see and to reinforce on a daily basis is so important. Just, you never know when a player or a staff member doesn't know what we're doing next, and oftentimes take for granted that everyone knows what you're doing. So planning everything and making it clearly laid out there is an important thing. I've always found in video, and as I've met a lot of other video coaches and different coaches, is that there's no right or wrong way to do things. It's just whatever works for you and gets the point across to your team and makes things most efficient for your guys. So if it's utilizing PowerPoint for video or other cheap and efficient things I talked about earlier, there's no right or wrong way to do things. This is one thing that I rely on a lot is an external hard drive. This particular screenshot is a 5 terabyte one. The one I carry around is a 3 terabyte one. I want to say I got it for about $40. This has every single game I've coached in my career on it. So if I ever wanted to go back and review things, find a clip from whenever, years past ago, I love storing things on there, and it's a great thing as a coach just to keep in your back pocket. And then leave it with a quote. Andy Choquette was one of my assistant coaches a couple of years ago in Canada. He's big in the KMHA. Proper planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance. And I do know he likely plagiarized it. I don't know from where, but I know he stole it from somewhere. But in the end of the day, that's always stuck with me. Andy was a military guy, very organized guy, very passionate guy. But, if you spend that extra few minutes at night or in the morning, making sure everything's really done up properly, you give your players, you give your staff that opportunity to succeed. And then at the end of the day, it comes down to, perhaps X's and O's and which team gets more bounces. So,
awesome. Thanks a lot for that, Jeff. That was great. Lots of good information for our coaches. A couple questions that did come in. What are your thoughts on showing video of, let's say for a minor hockey coach, showing video of, let's say, a junior A team or major junior team or an American League team or NHL team to your players to kind of reinforce the habits that you're looking for in them?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think as long as it's relatable to what you're doing. I mean, you don't want to show them something that's so far out of the realm of reality that they can't obtain. But no, I've shown my teams in the past NHL clips to my AAA teams of the pros making the same mistakes that we're making, just to reinforce that it's okay to make mistakes. Like if they're doing it in the professional level, it's okay that we do it. Let's just learn from it and move on. So yeah, if you can get clips from that to show your guys from higher levels, the players aspire to play at those levels. But for them to see that they're making similar mistakes or they're making the same plays, whatever it is, I think that's good reinforcement. Yeah.
Do you guys do that at the American League level, show NHL clips, or is that at that level, is it professional enough that they only need to see the clips of themselves?
Yeah, no, we definitely show NHL clips. We showed clips to our guys from, I thought the women's hockey at the Olympics was phenomenal. So we showed clips from there as well. It's X's and O's based and a lot of the concepts are similar. And, perhaps it comes down to execution at different levels, but like the Canadian women did such a good job at the Olympics. We were showing clips of their forecheck, like the intensity that they were using with their forechecks and how it worked. And then we'd contrast it with, a recent game where our forecheck was just really lame. Like we weren't finishing checks and we weren't really hard on pucks. And yeah, if you can find a way to relate to material from level to level, I think that's a great idea to do for sure.
Yeah, forechecking and especially like angling in the women's game, especially at the national level, is
unbelievable.
Yeah,
and that's something for minor hockey, especially introduction to body contact. They're not used to finishing checks, and it is a lot of angling. And yeah, you can show them women's hockey or college hockey, pro hockey, whatever it is. Like, yeah, like you show your guys or your young athletes, this is where you want to go, and they're doing the same thing. So let's try to do it ourselves.
So another one here, you see the acronym CIDZ in your slides. Do you know what does that stand for?
Yeah, sure. I can go back to that slide. Yeah, that was kind of just showing our verbiage that we use. And let me just scroll back up to that. Oh. The tech guy not getting the screen proper. Yeah, you want to cut that out from YouTube. All right, let's go up here.
If we lose you here, that might do all the good work that you just did for the last time.
That's all good. So we basically, when we were in St. Louis a couple of years ago, my first training camp with those guys, we thought it was important to mirror what they're doing up top. So things like CIDZ is coming into the defensive zone. So that's pretty much every time the puck gets over our blue line. I have a button on my computer. It's just this D button, to be honest. And that's coming into D zone. So hitting that button once will go back about 5 or 10 seconds and then 5 or 10 seconds after. So after it comes to our defensive zone, the next button I usually push is either a breakout or defensive zone coverage. Other things that are kind of unique that we use, CODZ, coming out of defensive zone coverage. I talked about that, the difference between how we view the difference anyways between a traditional active breakout and coming out of coverage. And actually the one drill I think I had in there was our coming out of D zone coverage. In that drill, everyone starts stationary in the corner, 5 guys in the corner in defensive coverage. And then we just go through our different routes on breaking out the puck. I don't think there's anything else on there that's kind of different. Certainly when I first saw CIDZ and CODZ, yeah, it took me a minute or two to pick up as well. But yeah, those are things right down from the Blues that they utilize and we thought were great to bring into our game as well. For me, it's a few less buttons to push and it kind of makes things a little simple. So, you know, if our coaches want to watch different areas of coming in defensive zone, you know, it could be, you know, how Stu Bickle could watch how the defensemen are, you know, counter hitting or how they're picking up the puck against a forecheck, how they're regrouping. It could be from Daniel Tkachuk's perspective, how our forwards are tracking back in the defensive zone. It could be from Drew Banish's perspective of how all 5 guys are in the picture coming into our defensive zone coverage. So hitting one button actually allows 3 guys to, you know, pick out different aspects of it for themselves.
Awesome. Couple more that just came in here. How would you go about using video with a player who is slumping?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. Like I said earlier, it's bad and good. You know, you can show some clips of perhaps some I don't want to say poor play is not the right word, but just some play that's not the way you feel it should be. And then if you have some clips, show them good items like that. That's the way you get them out of it. If you end video meetings on a positive, you leave the guys or your staff or whoever it is with that positive mindset. And with that positive mindset comes confidence. So, yeah, when players are struggling, they're gripping the sticks and they're banging their sticks or whatever to slamming the boards, there's always going to be clips in there of them doing things positive. You just, you know, you find them, you index them, you can save them in Dropbox folders just for yourself. And then when that guy is in that slump, you have those clips to go back to, and then you can show him to pump his tires up again. Because athletes, hockey players' memories are seemingly short term in terms of their performance. They always remember if they scored a couple goals, they're great. They think they're great players. And if they didn't, then they just think they're bad players. And so, you know, if you keep those clips over the long run in a Dropbox folder somewhere, yeah, you can easily, you know, text them after the game, put them in a Dropbox folder, send them a link and say, listen, like, I wouldn't worry about it. This is you in the right spot at the right time. You know, players are going to realize there's bounces good and bad. But if you can reinforce it by saying like you're in the right spot, it's gonna work. And here's a clip of it working. You know, I think that kind of ties it in a bow. So that's how I would approach it. That's how I have in the past, and yeah, it'll keep going that way, at least from my perspective.
Awesome. I have one more here. In your opinion, and you might be a little bit biased on this one, what is better, Stiva, Instat, etc., if only able to use one?
I mean, yeah, Stiva, I would say that only because I used it for such a long time and I became quite familiar with it. But as I talked about in the presentation, you know what, you can honestly use PowerPoint, and PowerPoint's so cheap and easy to use. And then you can utilize free ways, like I mentioned, of screen capturing, downloading videos from YouTube and putting it into PowerPoint, going to YouTube and creating a clip, putting it into PowerPoint. So as I might say, from a video editing standpoint, Steve is pretty good. I mean, it's hard to compare apples and oranges if you can only eat one thing for the rest of your life. Instat is very all-encompassing, you know, so that's kind of your game broken down for you. That might save you some time if you have a busy personal work schedule. That'll save you some time from indexing the video. But ultimately, I would have to go to PowerPoint. I know I said Steve, PowerPoint is just the cheapest thing to use because everything's so easy now to get video. Yeah, I would say PowerPoint at the end of the day. And that's, again, assuming you have the time to index video. If you don't have time to index video, yeah, Instat would be your answer. So it's not one answer. Sorry if I didn't cooperate with that, whoever asked.
Yeah, Instat's really easy to use. It's all there the next day, ready to go for you. I don't see any others. Are there any other questions before we get you out of here tonight? I don't see any others coming in.